Hello, my name is David Istier, founder of Gutzy Organic Gut Healthy Snacks. Today I'm excited to announce the start of a series of interviews called Be Gutzy One-on-One, where I will sit down to chat with Gutzy people who have experienced tons of adversity and never given up, no matter how hard it gets, and have found ways of succeeding and impacting the world in a positive way. So normally we will be doing interview face-to-face. At the end of each interview, the goal was to do a challenge with the person's special field, specialty per se. Unfortunately, with COVID-19 right now, we will be doing a Zoom interview. So I hope you check it out and enjoy. Today, I'm excited to chat with one of our first partners here at Gutzy, Kristian Aleixo. Kristian is a professional car racer on his journey to win Indy 500. He also overcame homelessness when he was a kid and beyond that, and also have been fighting an illness with type 1 diabetes. And he's also the author of a few books. One of the books about his life and his journey called The Outside Groove. Welcome to our first Be Gutzy One-on-One, Kristian.
Thank you. Super excited, man. I'm excited, man, to be here. You're always one of my favorite people to talk to. Love your energy and happy to spend some time with you, man.
Well, thanks. Where are you? Are you in Indianapolis today?
I am in Indianapolis. I live about 5.5 minutes from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, which is just such a blessing that your dream is like right down the street, man. It's less than
teasing you.
Yeah, man, it is. It's only 5.5 minutes away. So, awesome. So yeah.
Cool. Well, let's start. I've been. I think I was introduced to you by someone in New York it was 2016, so it's been a few years now. And I was amazed by the story and and what you went through and what you had to endure and how kind and giving you are through this whole process and focused on your journey.
Thank you.
So one of the things that really touched me is that you're from Seattle originally, and
right.
I will show your logo, which is pretty cool, with the Space Needle there.
See, a lot of people don't notice the Space Needle in the
right?
tachometer, man. Yeah.
But Seattle is very close to my heart too, because it's the first place where I went abroad and into America when I was 15 years old. I had the opportunity to spend a summer there, which was far from home. And,
right.
My parents, although not rich, kind of sacrificed for me to have this opportunity. And, I was 15 at the time, and, you're from Seattle, but pretty much at the same age as I was, you didn't have the same experience, right? Because you lost your mom when you were 13, and from there, you ended up homeless, and through all your high school journey and so on, and beyond that, you had quite challenges, and also your illness and whatnot. Right. So tell us a bit more, about when you go through so much hardship and tragedy when you're a young kid. Like, a lot of kids, they will tend to get into trouble and stuff. So how do you go through those early years in your life with such challenges?
Well, I think that the opportunity to take that path of getting into trouble was definitely available. There is no city in the world that I think is exempt from troubled people and troubled circumstances and avenues to get into those kinds of things. But what I think kept me out of that was I had a really strong foundation while my mother was alive. She always made sure that I was on the right path, So I'm very, very extremely thankful to her being a single mom and not having her being an immigrant as well, learning America, being a single parent on top of it, and just doing what she needed to do to make sure I had a good foundation. And obviously, I don't think she thought she wasn't going to be here for more than the 13 years that I was alive, but I'm glad that she did whatever she did do during that time, because it really gave me a solid foundation. So, and that's carried over in every place I've gone since then. I've always held on to those early values that I was taught. So,
and it's a fair point, because I think like kids really get the strong core of values at very young age.
Right.
In
Right.
terms of like the example that and what your parents are teaching you, really.
Right.
So okay, that's
Absolutely.
really awesome, man. But you from there you end up going to the army, and you went to
Yes.
Iraq twice.
Right.
And most folks kind of see the army as this thing that's, or war as this bad thing, but there's not just a bad side of it, right? There's also some positive in there. And I think I heard you mention that you were involved in an amazing project. Can you tell us a bit more about, what was one of your mission there while you were in Iraq?
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. I think war does have it's got its bad side. It's definitely got its negatives too. But I don't think any human being is designed to withstand that kind of mental, headspace for extended periods of time. But it definitely does have its positives, and some of those positives are being that the things that you can do to help, wherever you are. For example, we were in Iraq, and like you mentioned, we're building the world's largest railroad operation in a foreign country since World War II, and that was just so cool to be a part of. When I'm able to think about all the people that railroad will serve, and has served since I've left, it's still helping people out. So I'm very thankful for that time.
Yeah, I was very impressed to hear that. And so what led you to the army in the first place? I mean, what was that?
I was broke, man. I was broke. that's what did it.
Yeah.
I was broke, and I was homeless, living with my dad, and I needed a way to break out from his guardianship. It was a very tumultuous time, having him be in control of all of my circumstances at the time, and he wasn't doing a very good job of it. So I needed to get out and just make a way for myself, and that was the quickest thing I could think of. I thought about going the college route. I thought about doing all these other things, but I knew those were going to take more time than I had at the moment. I desperately needed out of my situation. And when you're a kid, you get these ideas of grandeur in your head about, all the adventure you're going to have. And, you're going to be doing some cool stuff, man. I've seen a ton of military movies, and to put myself in those positions and think, wow, I'm going to be doing some really, really cool stuff. It just seemed like the way to go.
Right. And what if you had to take two lessons that you learned in the army, what will they be, or the values that you got while you were there?
That's a great question. I think the first thing that comes to my mind when you ask that is my very first day that I got to basic training, Fort Jackson, South Carolina, and it's the warmest place I had ever been up until that point in my life. And very first day, we get there, and they line everybody up, and you have your duffel bag, and they tell you to write on the bottom of your duffel bag A, B, C, D down the line, right? And then at the fifth person, it starts over again. A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D. Everybody writes a letter on the bottom of their bag, so everybody's got a letter. And immediately after that, after everybody has a letter, they say, if you have an A on the bottom of your bag, go over here. If you have a B, go over here. A C over here, and D over there. Go. Right? And we all start running, right? We got our bags. We're thinking, okay, we get to our spot. And I remember I got to where I was supposed to be, to my designated area. And I'm patting myself on the back. Great job, Kristian. Right. I killed it, right? First thing they asked me to do, nailed it, right? This is going to be easy. And then all of a sudden, we heard, stop. Everybody stop where you are. And we stopped, and we looked around, and we're like, what's going on? And the drill sergeant asked a question. There was a question that I still think about today. He said, all of you who are in the area where you're supposed to be, look around. You're going to see people who are not where they're supposed to be. And why, if you were able to get your stuff there, why didn't you go back and help the other people? You see this guy over here struggling with his bag. You see that girl over there struggling with her bag. Why didn't you go back and help? And I was just like, oh, wow. I wasn't thinking of that, because in the situation, I was thinking about me and getting my stuff to where I needed to be. So that's definitely one. Always go back and help. If you're strong enough to get yourself to where you need to be, then you're definitely strong enough to go back and help somebody else. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, that was definitely the first lesson, I think, that I learned there. And two, I think, is just always having a purpose. There have been times in the military where we were kind of just floating around. A large part of my first tour in Iraq was we were kind of aimlessly floating around with no job, really. We were just out there, and it felt like we were so disengaged from what was going on. But the minute we actually had a job, the minute we had a purpose, it is so easy to get up in the morning. It's so easy to do what you need to do when you've got a purpose, and you know that what you're doing is meaningful. You know that what you're doing is assisting something, and you're a part of something. So those are the two things I think I learned most from the Army. Always go back and help, and keep your purpose at the forefront of your mind.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. And we talk about your illness, and you got it. I mean, it's kind of hereditary in a way. I think, diabetes. You got it. Your mother got it, and unfortunately, she passed from it. Like,
right.
Has impacted your life really in terms of how do you manage it, and especially being a professional athlete. Like, how do you deal with this every day? Like, has it changed your diet? Like, how have you been managing all this stuff?
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. That's been definitely one of the defining moments in my life, was being diagnosed with it. Because like you said, my mother passed away from it. And so being that diabetes took something so important from me, to have it circle back around in my life and to find out that I had it, and the way I found out was pretty impactful as well. I don't know how many of the listeners have been to war, but it's pretty stressful. You don't need any more bad news. So it was horrible to find that out, while I'm at war.
Wow.
You've got this disease. And at the time, I didn't understand a lot about it. My only reference point at the time for diabetes was my mom. And she passed away pretty quickly from it, I guess, relatively quickly, took about 5 years. And so being that this was my only scope of what the disease was and how it worked, I ended up thinking I only had 5 years left. And I was really freaking out, man. I was just like,
sure. Yeah.
Oh, I'm thinking it's a death sentence. It wasn't until I decided to do my own research and start looking into it, and I started talking to some doctors, that I was a little more encouraged. People telling me that it's actually all up to you. How this disease goes from here on out is down to you, and how diligent and how prepared you can be. And so once I found out that this disease was in my control and it was in my hands, and I very much intend to live a long and fruitful life. I very much intend to accomplish everything that I set out to do. I very much intend to help other people accomplish what they set out to do. I don't have time for diabetes to limit me. So if that means doing the things that unfortunately my mother wasn't able to do, which is to take that medicine on time. And it sucks. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I take 4 shots a day. And for people who hate needles, it's
I'm not a big needle guy, so I can barely imagine. Yeah, for sure.
You get it, So having to take 4 shots a day, having to prick your finger to check your blood, it's a lot, but I understand what I have to gain by doing that, by taking those shots and by eating the correct foods, by keeping my blood sugar at a level where it's manageable. I have so much to gain. I have a life long ahead of me that I have to gain by doing all of that. And it's a small price to pay, honestly, for the gift of life. So
100%, 100%. So let's talk a bit about racing, because I mean that's your core.
Yes.
Your core job, right, and passion.
Yes.
And, tell us a bit more about how did you get involved in racing? I mean, I know racing, is a sport that's predominantly white folks,
right.
And it's not a cheap sport, right? You need quite a bit of funding. Able to perform at the highest level, especially when you're trying to compete for Indy 500, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is amazing. So tell us a bit more about that. Like, how did you get into it? Like,
okay, yeah. So while I was having my homeless period in high school, my grandfather was leaving the country, and he decided to leave me his old Volkswagen Beetle. It's a '67 Volkswagen Beetle. And this thing was a certified piece of junk, it wasn't even worth, it wasn't even worth it, but it was mine, and for somebody who was homeless at the time, you hold on to every little thing you have. So it became my pride and joy. I put a lot of time into it, and it kept my mind off of the fact that I was in a homeless situation. So I had a buddy in high school who ended up introducing me to a thing called autocross, and sometimes referred to as Gymkhana. But it's like a large airfield or a large parking lot. They set up cones, orange cones, in a configuration. And first one through the cones wins. If you hit a cone, they add a second onto your time. And I thought this was so cool because you could do it with any car that you had, They broke it up into classes, so it's not like my Volkswagen Beetle was going up against like a Porsche GT3 or anything. They put all the slow cars with the other slow cars and the fast cars with the other fast cars. But the feeling that it left me with was some kind of control. When I'm behind the wheel, as many things are falling apart in my life and going on around me at the time, this made me feel like I had some kind of control, and that was worth more to me than anything, when everything is just going, right. So that's what really incited the passion in me.
And so how did you get to Indianapolis, and from there, like, how did you?
I took a plane. I'm kidding. No, I'm messing with you. No. I'm just messing with you, man. The journey's been a grueling one. As you said, this is not the cheapest sport. Yeah, man, it's been such a, I ask myself every day, why don't I like tennis or something like basketball, that, where I can just, right.
In the ball, right? And
I can afford a racket. Exactly. I can afford a racket and get out there, man, but racing is so expensive. So I had to get really creative, I've slept in my car for a year just to get the opportunity to do this, and it's actually one of the reasons why I'm thankful for the homelessness in high school, because I don't think I would have
gone through it. Yeah.
Right, absolutely. Everybody's like, "Yo, you're crazy," sleeping in your car for a year. But sleeping in my car for a year is easy when you've done it, for years before. So. We had a cool couple of deals. We went the NASCAR route for a little bit, lost a ton of money over there, just with everything. And it started to take my attention away from it. IndyCar is so inclusive, which is what I love about it. You mentioned that it's very mono-ethnic, the sport is, but IndyCar is very, very inclusive. You've got people from all over the world who were able to compete. I'm so happy to see actually a fellow Frenchman, Simon Pagenaud, won the Indy 500 last year. You had Takuma Sato from Japan, won the Indy 500, became the first Asian driver to ever win the Indy 500 the year before that. And it's just so inclusive, man. Everybody's so welcoming, so inviting.
For sure. I mean, it sounds like a tight community, though.
It really is. It really is. There aren't a ton of people who are able to get to this level, which is why it's going to mean so much when we're able to run that race. It's 5.5 minutes away. I've got the best.
You're right there, right there.
Oh yeah, I'm right there. You know, right? I live in the same neighborhood. So
I mean, I'm a true believer. I know that it's just a matter of when, not if, and I'm convinced that you will make it happen.
Well, thank you, man.
You know, and
I'm bringing you along with me.
I'll be there to watch for sure.
I'm bringing you along with me, man. Oh yeah.
Sure.
You know?
How is what's going on right now with COVID-19 and the shutdown kind of affecting your day, you know, in terms of like and your goal, because it's obviously a bit on pause right now, right?
Right. Yeah, everything's pretty much hit the pause button. Last weekend, IndyCar did their first ever fanless race. They got the idea from NASCAR. So Roger Penske, longtime IndyCar team owner, longtime NASCAR team owner, he actually bought the IndyCar series. He's got just that much money. He bought the series, and so he's really been implementing some of the things that worked for NASCAR on the IndyCar side of things. And one of those things was the fanless races. So last week at Texas Motor Speedway was the first time they did that, which was interesting. The Indy 500 for this year has been pushed back to August, and they're still figuring out if that's going to happen or not. If that doesn't work, then they've got another date in October, which would change completely the dynamic of the race. You know, this race has been run on Memorial Day for almost 100 years. You know, so this was the first year that this hasn't happened, and COVID's definitely affected a lot. But as we get back up and running, I'm going to get back up and running. I've been putting together a simulator here at home. Got some boxes over here in the corner. So I can kind of practice at home now. I don't need to leave to go do that. But yeah, no, we'll be getting going here pretty soon. Even if it is fanless, and it's terrible for the people who love to come and watch, but necessary and mandatory for
sure.
For safety reasons. So.
Especially with your condition, like you're more. You have to be
I'm high risk. Yeah, definitely.
For sure.
I am.
Cool. I mean, the other stuff that I really admire about you is that you're on your way from your profession and your passion, but while you had, it hasn't been easy and it hasn't been straightforward road. You've been giving back, and you've found a way to, through that adversity, to heal yourself with the issues you had with the passing of your mom and homelessness and illness and stuff, to reach out to kids that have been facing similar things, and it hasn't been easy for them. And you've done a lot of work around kids and with kids, like with the Children's Bureau, which is an organization that foster kids, and also you donate your time at Riley's Children's Hospital. You've been doing a lot of giving back, which I find truly amazing. You've just launched this children book, Guide to Motorsport.
Yeah, faster and faster.
Which is amazing. Can you tell us a bit more about what drives you to kind of give back in such a way when you're not you're still trying to get through and do well yourself?
Right. I think it's mainly because I recognize in these children things that I didn't have, and things that I wish somebody had told me, and I wish that somebody had it would have made it a little bit easier for me. So the things that I've learned just personally throughout the journey, I want to impart those onto someone who really needs it. You mentioned Children's Bureau of Indiana, and I absolutely, one of my most favorite organizations. I do the celebrity cookoff for them each year, and I visit to read to those kids, and just to talk to them, because they're going through homelessness right now at an even younger age than I was.
Often they probably they didn't have the chance to have such an amazing mom like yours, that although she passed away, he gave you some motivation, right?
Absolutely. And I recognize that they're in very likely a worse situation than what I was in, so but the reason I do it while I'm still on the journey, while I still take the time out, is because I think this is a critical time in my journey. I think this is a very imperative time because they are going to, as they get older, they're going to come in contact with things, and life will try to take you away from that right path. It seems that some of the worst things in life are a lot of times the easiest things to do. And when life is hard, you end up looking for the easiest things to do. You just want something, anything in life to be easy. Can something just be easy for once,
For sure.
And this is an important part of my journey because I'm accomplishing something from this, and I want them to see that, because as they see it, I end up then leading by example.
For sure. It's a lot of people in society today, unfortunately, even I get caught up in this sometimes and say, oh, I can do this or I can do that because I'm not where I need to be at this stage, and I have to focus and be almost like this. And it's the worst thing you can do, right? Because it's just an excuse, and there's no time to give. You can be as small as anything. It's just like the process of going through that journey, right? And not looking for excuses. So I think that's what really impresses me with you. You're doing it like from day one, and that's one thing that I was very impressed. And you mentioned that you just started a foundation called Capability.
Yes.
That pairs disabled children that have athletic aspiration with pro athletes who have similar disabilities. Can you tell us a bit more about that? Because I was really amazed about this idea. I'm really, really excited about this. And, explain a bit more how it came about and, what it's about, like, if you will.
Yeah, definitely, man. Of course. I am so excited about this, and this idea for Capability was born through talking to kids at the children's hospitals. And as I visit the kids, and we're talking just about, what do you want to do when you're not in this hospital, right? Because you're not going to be in here forever. Let me tell you that right now. You are getting better and better by the day, by the minute. I see it, And what are you going to do when you get out now, right? And some of the kids tell me they want to be, athletes. They're like, oh, it would be so cool if I could race, or it would be so cool if I could play in the NFL, or it would be so cool if I could be, a Major League Baseball player, right? Or make the NBA. But there's always this look that comes over their faces immediately after. And it's this look of disappointment. And it's this, and I ask, well, what's wrong? And I keep hearing the same thing back every time. Well, I don't think I can because of my disability, I don't think I am because I'm limited. And I don't want to tell these kids, don't listen to your parents. But sometimes, your parents get it wrong, man. So sometimes they get it wrong. And I stumbled upon a TED Talk by Jim Abbott, former Major League pitcher, who had one arm, and he made the major leagues. And he said in his TED Talk that what led him to believe that he could do this with one arm was his parents never treated him like he had a disability. They, they told, figure it out, get creative, whatever you need to do. But you are no different than anybody else out there. And awesome, it led to a successful career in a sport where typically you need both arms.
Yeah. And when you have both arms, most of us can even,
can't even do that. Right. Most of us still can't even do that. So
for sure.
Yeah.
Can you spell the name? So what is it? So Capability. Tell us about how did you come up with the name?
CAPE. It's a little play on words. Cape dash ability. Because I thought superheroes wear capes, and that's what we're all about. We're all about introducing first the child to their superhero, which would be somebody who's doing professionally what they want to do and has that same disability, and then in turn having their superhero introduce them to the superhero within themselves.
That's awesome. I love the logo, by the way.
Really thank you. Yeah. I wanted to make sure that it encompassed all the sports and that it made everybody feel welcome. And
Welcome.
that's really what it's
very,
for, man.
It's very inclusive, especially at this time
Yes.
that we live in today. I think that message is very powerful.
Yeah, thank you.
And that's why I wanted to tell you that I'm very proud that Gutzy Organic will be donating $2,500 to the foundation. I know it's 30 days. I know you still have a lot of stuff to do. You need to build a website.
Yeah.
Of this stuff, but you know, it's really for as a brand, it really touches what we're about, what you're doing with this, and you know, and also personally, I like to donate my time to help you with this, to help it grow and grow the awareness, and in any way I can. So we'll be talking more about this and how I can help you, you know, maybe on the funding side, maybe on the connection with some of the athlete side, and other things, right? Because I think it's an amazing thing that you're setting yourself to do here, it's really great. So I'm very excited, very excited for you. And for
I appreciate that, man. And God bless your heart. Honestly, you know, you've got such a good heart, and that's why it's been awesome just connecting with you and partnering with you on this. So I'm even more excited to, you know, bring you into the journey of this, and just I can't even imagine what it's going to look like, you know, a year from now, 2 years from now.
But that's the beauty, huh? That's the beauty.
Yeah, you know, when we're having our camps and we get to tell a kid, hey, you know, I know somebody who's got your exact disability, because that's what I was finding too, was that I like to think of myself as a motivator. I try to put the battery into people's backs, you know, to get them charged up. But there's a limit to what I can say if I do not suffer from the exact disability that this person has, and I don't have the same aspirations as this person has, you know. So I can tell them, you know, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, and that's all great. But what's even more helpful to that child is somebody who could actually help you with a plan on how to get there, man.
For sure, like they can relate to that person, and that person has the experience of having lived it, you know.
Right.
That's really awesome. Well, thank you so much for being such an awesome partner. First of all, an amazing human.
Thank you.
And for taking the time, you know, to chat today and to talk about your journey, and I'm very excited about what's to come for you in the racing world, and also with all the things that you're doing right now. And normally, you know, if we were doing this interview one-on-one, the goal was to in person to do a challenge, and maybe, you know, like in the person speciality. So at some point I'll have to come and I know those little cars that you had before. I forgot what they are. You call them. I heard you're pretty good at ping pong as well, buddy. And so I want to do a. So hopefully when everything opens up with COVID and stuff, and the economy, I think we will definitely have a follow up, and we'll see.
I know a great place in New York. We can play some ping pong, man. Yeah, bud.
So it will be great. So thank you so much, Kristian.
Thank you for having me. I really do appreciate it.
And stay safe.
Likewise.